I have the pleasure to be together with Veneta and Gordon Merk. You live in Bulgaria. Your heart is for the family.
That's right.
Share about your family.
Yeah, we have 4 children. We are a rather international family. My wife is Bulgarian. I'm half Swiss and half English, with even Scottish and German roots. And, we are Europeans. And we believe in the European heritage, which are good values, good family values, good morals, hard work, and justice and freedom for everybody. We believe in these values, and we believe that children are our greatest treasure. And me as a Swiss, having grown up with these traditions and values, even more so, this is true for Bulgaria. My wife says the Bulgarians are willing to die for their children. And, this is really true. This is not an overstatement. And I appreciate that. I love that about Bulgaria, among other things. And this is important, especially in the struggle we find ourselves in at the moment.
Yeah, Veneta, Gordon says you would die for the family, not only for your own family, you're also involved in support for other families.
Yes, for us Bulgarians, the family comes first. We will do anything for our children, because our children is the future of my country, of our nation as well. So we want to make sure that our children are safe, and we want to make sure that the family is really protected and helped in Bulgaria. We want to make Bulgaria great again, as it used to be many years ago. We believe we can do it. We are waking up as Bulgarians, and we want to change the nation and give our part for it. And hopefully to become example for many other countries in Europe.
So Bulgaria wants to be an example in Europe. There's a new strategy for the child, 2019 to 2030. That sounds quite good. Supporting children's rights. Now this strategy somehow went awkward.
Yeah, the strategy puts the child in the center. And unfortunately, the way it's been formulated, it takes the power and the responsibility away from the parents and gives it into the hands of the state and the social worker. And we are very worried about it, because in our constitution, there is a very clear saying that actually the responsibility of the raising of the children comes solely into the hands of the family. And we want it to stay that way. And if there is any problems in some families, we think they should be helped. The family should be helped, the parents should be helped. And very seldom, in some cases, children have to be taken out. But we need to support the family and make them healthy so they can raise themselves, the children. And these children will become healthy parents one day themselves and raise their own children in a healthy, good way.
There's been a large political debate about this strategy in the last few months. What is the current status?
Well, officially, the Prime Minister said they withdrawn the strategy after, obviously, protests and some discussions. These protests have, however, been widely ignored, unfortunately, by the media and by politicians alike. But now they have, after all, withdrawn it officially. However, when we listen to the lawyers that are dealing with these issues, a lot of new laws have been tabled that should come into power in January 2020. So actually, it seems a bit of a cat and mouse game, as you would say in German, where one thing is said publicly, but another thing is done behind the closed doors. So we want to make people aware that things are not quite the way they are presented. And this is not a matter of a few hysterical parents. Some media represent some people's responses. This is really legislation that is available for the public to understand, and for the lawyers to obviously evaluate. And that's our concern.
So if I understand correctly, the government presented a strategy which was opposed by many citizens and also by the Orthodox Church in a very strong way. There were thousands of people rallying against this. What are your concerns about this new law?
Yeah, there are many concerns that we have, but some of these are that the child has been given too much authority in this early age when they don't really know what is good for them and what is not. And then the responsibility and the rights have been taken away from the parents and given to the social worker and into the hands of the state. And actually it shouldn't be that way. And another thing is that also people have been encouraged to give signals anonymously about their neighbors, about people they see, and nobody's checking whether those signals are really right or it's some kind of a made-up thing, and there is no responsibility taken by these people who give false signals. There's many things that are going wrong in this way.
Yeah, our concern is really that the child is the center of that proposed strategy and not the child within the family. So we are afraid that the tendency is that the state and its social services, together with NGOs, are almost replacing or undermining the parents and their authority, and that it is implied that the parent is incompetent to raise a proper family. But for all of human civilization, the parents have been the ones, within society who have been the ones who've been raising children. And actually, my wife referred to the Bulgarian constitution, it's Article 47, that says that the raising of children is the responsibility and the obligation of the parents with the help of the state, and not for the state to overrule and to interfere in a wrong way. Now, we are very clear that there are cases of abuse, there are cases of extreme poverty where the state is responsible to intervene. But we are afraid that the ideological framework is shifting. So we are afraid that too much power is given to undermine the parents and to interfere wrongly in families. And there is not enough in investigation and, sometimes in some cases in the West where even the courts are not involved the way they should be. For example, where the social workers at their own estimate can go in and take children away from their families. This has been absolutely shocking for us to learn. And then the court case and that follows rather than the other way around, where first there should be investigation, and is it really necessary that this extreme measure of removing a child has to take place, and then within which framework and in which time frame, and we hear many stories also firsthand of very fast adoption processes rather than trying to restore families in extreme cases. So we believe the family should remain the core of society, and we should do everything to help parents and children to form that important unit of a healthy society.
Yes.
Bulgaria is not the only country where children's rights are under discussion. I see another possibility there or another problem there in a legal way, because children's rights. Now, if there is something, who speaks for the child? If the child is not grown up, the child cannot speak for himself or herself. So there has to be somebody being the spokesperson for this child. And the question is, who is that if not the parents?
Yeah.
Actually, I would like to add that according to the new strategy, the children are considered in risk when they live in poverty. And unfortunately, in Bulgaria at the moment, more than 50% of the families are exactly at the poverty line. But this doesn't make them bad parents, and this should not be a reason those children to be taken away. And if this strategy, or rather the law that has been passed already, goes into power from January 2020, means that more than 50% of our Bulgarian children could be, and most probably will be, taken out of their homes because of poverty.
The poverty issue that my wife is referring to, in a country like Bulgaria, where salaries in some places are around 300 euros, 500 euros, in the bigger cities a bit more, these are very, very unrealistic requirements that are forced on a poor country based on Western standards, also size of rooms and so on. And these are good ideals, but when they use it as legislation to remove children from their family, finances is not the only thing that matters for a child's well-being. Actually, love and support, believing in your child, teaching the child good values, believing in the child. This is what brings up a good child. The financial issue should never be the determining factor. But this is a tendency that is very worrying, especially for people who are honest people. They are hardworking people. They pay their taxes. But the economic situation is such that people cannot earn more money. And you cannot punish families for an economic situation. It's not their fault. And then remove the one thing that they live for is their children. This is a very, very, very wrong development here that is very worrying for many Bulgarian parents. And this could have potentially an enormously negative consequence, and that cannot be in the best interest of the child under any circumstances.
Yes, and what are the values behind this when poverty is the criteria for good parenting and good raising of children? As my husband said, isn't it the love and the care of the parents, and materialistic things should be left behind? What are the values behind this whole model of parenting and social services.
On the internet, I found a statement by the Bulgarian government that the strategy for the child is cancelled. Nevertheless, you speak about new legislation coming into force as of January 2020. What is this legislation all about?
Yes, this legislation, unfortunately, has been done very secretly and quietly behind the public's back. But we found out about it, and now, even though the strategy has been stopped completely, those laws will go into power in 2020. And those legislations and these laws exactly about determining the child protection services according to the Norway ideological system of barnevernet.
Another thing I found on the internet was that this is obviously fueled by money from foreign countries, namely from Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. I found that a grant of 130 million euros is offered to Bulgaria to put new legislation into force. Is this ideological bribery?
Well, we want to be careful what we say here. But in Bulgaria, they have an interesting saying that says, "Whoever pays determines the music." And we are very concerned that usually people don't just give away money for free. There is often something behind it, especially when we talk about politics and governments. So yes, we are very concerned that these ideologies that led to those scandalous and traumatic child removal actually is coming to Bulgaria. And it doesn't take rocket science to understand that there is the money, there's the ideology, and the legislation is already in place, that this is where it's going. So that's our concern based on these facts.
In general, those grants are going to many different places, and they're changing a lot the new people who are coming into different professions like teachers, judges, lawyers, social workers. So actually it's really coming over many different aspects of society, which I find very, very worrying. Whatever we do, no matter how Bulgaria grow and wants to come closer to European new understanding of how things should be done, I think we should keep to our Christian values, and they should determine the way we do everything.
You reported about Bulgaria, that's the country where you live. Is this the only place in Eastern Europe where things like this are happening?
No, actually there's many other countries that have been affected. And Serbia, unfortunately, is one of those countries where we just heard that for many years barnevernet has been working secretly there and educating social workers who, from their behalf, will start to implement those new ways of treating children and families, unfortunately. And it's not only there, also Croatia, Poland, Romania is suffering from this, maybe not so directly, but this system is going to many different countries in Eastern Europe. And we want to raise awareness. We want people to understand what is being done before it's too late. We need to stop that now.
And you decided not to remain silent. What's the next activity?
On the 7th of September there is a protest. It's a Europe-wide protest. Originally, our heart was to stand with Norway and the concerned parents and the affected parents. And now with all the noise that was happening around, many other countries joined. This over 12 countries now.
Yes, over 12 countries from all over the world, actually. We're not just staying in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
We decided, as my husband said, to stand with Oslo and support the parents there, because there is also Bulgarian families who are fighting for their children, and there are many others. And actually we've decided, yes, we should not just keep it between Norway and Bulgaria. There's so many other countries that are affected indirectly or directly. So we've been inviting, we've been sending messages, and suddenly we are growing, and we are growing very fast, and many countries are being added to this protest on the 7th of September.
Thank you very much for sharing this information. We'll keep everybody informed using our social media channels. Keep us updated what's happening in Bulgaria, and we'll stand with you. Thank you for supporting families and children in our nations.
Thank you too.